Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ideas Sin. Now, allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm your host, Denise, and this is my podcast. I was reminded by my dad a few weeks ago that I should probably have an episode where I introduce myself. And I realized so far the episodes that I've recorded, I've recorded quite a bit of episodes, honestly, and I've got them all banked and just ready for release. And so this year I have episodes scheduled out up to like 20 something weeks. And I know that I missed last week, but I'm going to just post 2 episodes this week. And this one, I also just, for my 10th episode, I wanted to share me. And I wanted to talk to you about who I am a little bit anyway. I'm not going to go in and tell you my life story. You're going to hear some of that unfold as you continue to listen to the podcast. But I wanted to just give you a little sample as to who I am and why I started this podcast and why I think it is so important to dive into this. So my name is Denise. I have a background working in clinical research for different types of companies, hospitals, large pharmaceutical companies, startups as well. And I've been in that profession for over 10 years. And so for the past 5-ish years, I was focusing on digital therapeutics and digital health technology. So I have a lot of experience in project management, operations, seeing how businesses run. I've worked in a number of different areas. Like I've worked in retail. I've had under the table jobs as like working as like contractor's assistant and arborist assistant and like selling little trinkets and things like that. And just a lot of things. I've always been hustling and I've always had work to do. I'm not really one to just stay still for very long. And so I like to keep going, but work has always kept me busy in that way. And so I decided to expand out on some creative endeavors. And so I moved to Austin, Texas. A lot of my career where I grew up, everything was in the Northeast. And moving to Austin, Texas a few years ago was primarily for me to get in touch with my creative side because I realized I have been so out of touch with that. And I wanted to challenge myself to use my voice because for years I was afraid to use my voice. And so this is kind of a personal challenge to share my thoughts and my experiences and to just have like a little collection of stories of the people who have impacted me in some way and have inspired me in some way through my own explorations in life. I am an explorer. I end up in random situations all the time. I don't know how it happens, but the most random shit will happen to me. And I tell people, hey, I'm late because of this. And they're like, shut up. No, you're not. And I'm like, I'm so serious. Look at this. And then they're just like, I don't know how this happens to you. And I'm like, I don't know either. But adventure seems to find me. Randomness seems to find me. But I'm very intellectually curious and I learn from this world by going out and experiencing things. I go out and I travel. I do a lot of different sports. I expand out on different interests and hobbies. And it brings me a lot of fulfillment. But along with that fulfillment and learning, or learnings, I guess, I end up facing fear a lot because I am always put in this beginner mindset. I'm in the beginner position in a lot of these different things. And that can be very intimidating when you're starting something completely new and you're going into this new area and you see other people who've been doing these things for years and you're just like, holy shit, like, can I even compare to these people? Like, will I ever even get to their level? Or, like, what makes me think that I could be good enough to do what they're doing? Like, why even bother? And sometimes you have to push beyond that mentality and say, no, like, I'm doing this because I want to. And over time, what I ended up doing was not looking at these people in a way that would defeat me from trying to do something new. And then also the other aspect of it is like seeing them as competitors. There's like, that could be an advantage too, is like, oh man, I gotta work to get to that level. And so you try to like compete in that way, and that could be positive, but there's also negatives to it. There could be a toxic side to it. So you have to be very mindful of that. But what I've gotten into the position of doing is really just trying to observe and learn from these individuals. Even if they're more advanced from me, it's like they're still teachers in some type of way. So what is it that I can learn from them? What is it that they're doing or they're observing that I'm not? What did they have to go through to get to where they are? Because every person is just slightly different and slightly unique. So why not learn from all of them? And I always gravitate towards the teachers who are running the classes because they have that experience. They have those years in the books. And it's like, I want to learn from them. So I always tend to gravitate towards the primary teachers and instructors. And I find that I end up learning so much about myself, how I communicate, how I interpret information, how I perceive the world, how I synthesize certain skill sets and mentalities from one activity or hobby or sport into another. And my curiosity just continues to expand. And so I really wanted to create this podcast to share these individuals' stories so that we have a glimpse of their life. And so we have an understanding of what it is that they've gone through. What is it about this thing that really just made them pursue it? Because some of these things are not necessarily the most common things that you'll find out there. And so for some individuals, it's going to be an introduction into a new field or into a new topic or activity. And so it's just opening up the world to others to see that there's more out there than what you perceive in your current reality, in your current day-to-day. I'm always going to travel. I'm always going to explore. I'm always going to seek out diversity in my experiences. And over time, I've begun to realize like, yeah, I would try that, or I wouldn't try that. Or I've learned that, wow, there are certain activities that I tend to gravitate towards when I'm in a particular mindset. Or there are others where it's like, man, I really need to not be so hard on myself and do all these really tough activities. I have to start finding more balance and doing like softer, gentler activities. And so it's really interesting to see just how I change over time and how my activities, hobbies, and interests also change over time. Now, I may never be an expert in anything that I ever do. I've totally accepted this. I'm totally fine being what's the term? A dilettante? Is that what it is? I think it has like a negative connection to it of being like somebody who just dabbles in things, but like they don't necessarily like commit fully to it. But I don't really feel like that's such a negative thing, because if you try something and you really put some effort into it, but you ultimately find that it's not for you, then don't waste your energy on it. Why waste time doing things that don't make you happy and don't fulfill you? It doesn't make any sense. Time is the most valuable currency that you have in this life. People think it's money. It's like, no, 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 no. Yes, money might be the second thing, but time, optimizing your time and how you invest in it, what you do with your time, that is what can potentially optimize the way that you make money. And you use money to optimize your time. You invest in yourself. You invest in your mind. One of the best investments you could ever make in this life is investing in yourself. The more knowledge that you can obtain, the more opportunities you have available to you in this world. The more ideas you have to expand out and try different things, make connections, network, find your community. You find balance within your health and all aspects of your health and wellness, actually. Because once you start really investing in yourself and you see like, wow, man, like, if I take care of my body now and I eat right and I exercise, I'm investing in myself. It is hard work. It can be painful, but ultimately that's going to save me a medical bill down the line, because if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm going to end up in a hospital with medical bills. And then the time that it takes me to even recover from that disease or from that illness, whatever it is, it's time wasted that you could have been using to live your life however you want, like fully, healthily. It's taking time away from the things that you care about, whether it's your pets, your family, your friends, your career, your hobbies, activities. It's so important to invest in yourself and to invest in your mind and to ensure that you heal yourself in so many ways. And I find that all of these things that I have been pursuing and exploring has really allowed me to reconnect with myself and heal in ways I never would have thought. Moments where I have bouts of loneliness or isolation, those things are cleared once I start diving into my hobbies and activities, because I have a community associated to it. And I'm able to connect with different people. And I'm able to have deep conversations with individuals. And I learn that through openness and vulnerability, that, hey, maybe they're struggling with something that I'm struggling with, or maybe they went through something that I went through, and they're opening up their experience and what they've learned from that. And it's free education in a way, because I'm learning from others. And then I take that information and I'm like, how can I apply it to myself? How can I use this to my benefit? And then how can I share this with somebody else and ensure that they also receive the maximum benefit from this information? So this podcast is I don't know how it's going to evolve. I have these stories lined up. I have these amazing individuals who have spent so much of their time with me, just talking to me and answering all my random questions. And I'm excited to share it with all of you. And every once in a while, I'm going to do my solo episodes, and I'll maybe dive in and I'll give you some stories about some of my experiences and be like, yeah, that one time I was talking to so-and-so, we glazed over and talked about this experience that I did, blah, 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 or I had this happen to me. Like, let me talk about why I decided to do this activity, or why I decided to invest in this type of travel or get into this type of sport, or how it's affected me in whatever way. Because as random as all of my activities may seem, there's a reason why I dive into it. There's something about it that really just kind of like sucked me in. And I was like, oh, I have to try this. There are times where it's like, I don't know why I have to try it, but like I have to just go and do it and experience it for myself. I was always one of those individuals who people would say, no, you can't do this or you can't do that, or like, don't ask questions and you shouldn't try that or you shouldn't do this. And I would just eventually find my way in doing it and just be like, well, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to go do it anyway. It's just like, yeah, I'll nod and smile. That was a quote by, who was it? Oh my gosh. I have his face in my mind and I can't think of his name. It's an actor. I think he did Iron Man. Oh gosh, you guys are probably, yeah. Anyway, you guys know who I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm pretty sure he was the one that was like, yeah, when people are trying to tell you what to do or telling you not to do something, you smile, nod, and then just go do whatever the fuck you were going to do anyway. And I feel like I've done that most of my life. When I put my mind to something, it's like, no, this is it. Like, this is happening. And I know I've done that with some friends where I'm like, hey, so I've made it like, so I'm going to go do something. And I remember one conversation with a friend, actually, Pierre, shout out to you. Where I was like telling him, yeah, so I'm going to move to Austin. He was just like, no. And I was just like, oh, well, and he's like, no, like you already made your mind. You already made your mind up. Like you're going to do this. Like it doesn't matter what I say. Like you're already committed to it. Like when you commit to something, like you do it. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. So yeah, I guess it just really depends. But that's something that is important to embrace when you're going to try something new. Because there's going to be those moments of anxiety or feelings that come up of hesitation, or you have fear. And sometimes that prevents us from taking the steps necessary in order to make significant change in our lives. Whether that's applying for a new job because you fucking hate your job and you say that you hate it, but you continue to stay there. And now the years are going by and nothing's changing. So why are you not changing that? I've been in that situation too. It's sometimes like you're not motivated enough until something hits you and you're like, you know what? No, I need to change this. And then you start researching, you start looking at other companies, you start studying how to interview and you prepare your resume and you start applying to different places because you realize your happiness and your time is much more important than wasting it doing something that isn't bringing value to you personally or, even professionally. But that being said, as miserable as some jobs can be, there's always pros and cons. And taking the moment, and this is for every situation, really. There's always a pro and a con. Even if the cons outweigh the pros are that you have the opportunities to learn from that experience, period. Like, what did you learn? And the fact that you learned something, even if it's just like, well, I'll never do that again. Or, yeah, maybe we shouldn't like do this or blah, blah, blah. Like, even if that's the learning, that is still a positive. So long as you take that learning and you apply it moving forward to not repeat the same mistake. It's okay to make mistakes. It's always okay to make mistakes, but learn from your mistakes. And sure, some of us, we might experience the same mistake over and over a few times, but after a certain point, like it's going to hit you and you're going to be like, oh, right. Now I get it. Now I see what mistake I'm making. So I'm going to change it up. And so you learn eventually, hopefully. Yeah, it's just really cool because with all the stories that I'm getting from folks, that's exactly what I'm getting. I'm getting that authenticity. I'm hearing what people have been going through, what they ended up being challenged with, whether it was situations that they encountered and what they were doing, or challenges within themselves. Challenges of being like, wow, I was hit with reality of who I was and I had to change, or I had to face the fact that I was like this, or I was like that, or I had this mentality, or I was being this type of way. That's everybody though, and you have time to change. You always have time to change. But you need to take the steps to do it, even if it's just like a baby step. But that first step is the thing that you have to take. And it's hard. Some people will never take that first step, and they waste time living in judgment of others and jealousy of others and misery of themselves, feeling completely unbalanced within themselves, or feeling like something's missing in their lives, or feeling regret for not doing something. And the thing is, if you don't start today, what's going to happen tomorrow? It doesn't matter. Like you're never too old to start something. I say that, and then my logic brain is kicking in and being like, well, let's figure out what activities would require you to have blah, 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 or a certain age. This is what I do. I'll say certain things, and then like my brain goes into analysis mode and then tries to counter what I'm saying. Anyway, because, there's always exceptions. There's always random exceptions. But the thing is, it's like, start something. Even if it's not maybe the exact thing that you want to do, you can find something affiliated to that. Maybe you can't play in the major leagues, but maybe you can volunteer as a coach for a team. Or maybe you can write for a paper, or go be a photographer for the professional sports teams, or be a personal trainer for the athletes. I don't know. Like there's so many ways that you can still stay involved within the activities that you love to do, even if you can't do it yourself. And sometimes that is just as fulfilling. So life is really beautiful. I've been through the ups and downs. I've been to some of the darkest places, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything. And then I've been to some of the higher places as well. And I feel like I'm still moving up and expanding even more and more. Every time that I take a chance on myself and I invest in myself and I take a step towards something that I'm curious about or interested in, or sometimes even scared of. If I'm scared of something, it's like, man, why am I scared of that? And it's that process of self-exploration that allows you to learn more about yourself and your fear and what is holding you back. Because a lot of the times, once you figure out what that is, you can develop the steps to overcome that. And you can seek out the resources or the help out there to change that or to help you overcome it. And sometimes the fears that we have aren't really like that serious. Sometimes it's like a fear of failure or imposter syndrome or feelings of worthiness, or feeling inadequate in some way, or feeling like I'm not smart enough to do that, or I'm not talented enough to do this, or my music isn't that good, or I'm not great at blah, blah, blah compared to this person and that person. And I have felt all of those things throughout my life, and I still continue to feel some of those things depending on what it is that I'm trying to do. I mean, I felt a lot of those different things when I started this podcast, like, what is so special about my voice? What is so special about my experiences? What is so special about blah, 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 blah? Why should anybody waste their time listening to me? And I go through all those things and I'm like, fuck it. It's not about whether anybody is listening to me or not. This is a personal project that I decided to take on. I have been challenging myself to learn to speak. I've been challenging myself to learn about audio processing. I've been learning about creating a website, finding out the audio distributor for my episodes, trying to figure out the logos and branding and figuring out how do I post, what kind of, I don't know, bios and titles and things do I talk about, and even challenging myself during, scheduling, and then being on the calls with people and actively listening for an extended period of time and staying engaged and trying to come up with thoughtful questions. And on top of that, still trying to improve on how I speak, identifying when I have filler words. Like, I definitely have filler words. I'm like listening to some of the audio that I recorded and I definitely have audio words of like, yeah, that's true. What is it? Like, that's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Like, I have random filler words and I hear it and I acknowledge that, but I'm not gonna make myself feel bad for having those things, because this is all a new experience for me and I'm learning as I go, and I'm trying to improve as I continue to record and I continue to edit. But the reality is, nobody speaks so eloquently that, well, I mean, maybe there are people out there, but normal conversation, like authentic conversations with people, yeah, you're going to have pauses. You're going to have moments of silence while people sit there and they process what it is that you said, or maybe think before responding. These are the things that I don't want to remove from my podcast, because I want it to be authentic. I want people to hear these things because this is how we communicate. And I feel like communication has been stagnating quite a bit, especially with social media and, even with some of the younger generations. It's hard to sometimes hold a conversation. And I want people to realize that what you see in a text message is not really how people talk in real life. Even the text messages, sometimes the way that you see it or read it is not always the same tone as how somebody would say it. And so with this podcast and these stories that are being told, I want you to hear the tones. I want you to hear the pauses. I want you to hear the ums, the yes, and the tongue ties and the mistakes, because we're all human and this is how we communicate. We flub over our words. We stumble over them, and it's okay. It's not a big deal. I'm not, with this podcast, I'm really not aiming for perfection here. I'm not aiming for super clean and super perfect and this and that. Although I do have those perfectionist tendencies at times. And so I am going to do my best to make it as presentable as possible, but I've gotten to a point where I'm not going to beat myself up for little mistakes anymore, because I want it to be real. It's normal for people to make mistakes, whether it's me doing this podcast or somebody making a mistake at work or a mistake within their relationship or how they communicate. We all make mistakes, but it's what you do with that mistake that determines whether it's a good or a bad thing. Learn from it, improve, and then you'll grow from it. Failure's the same way. Like, we're all going to fail no matter what we do. Nobody is perfect the first time they do something. But if you fail, if you fall, get back up. Get back up and keep going. That's what we did as children. Learning to walk for the first time, you would crawl and then you'd randomly get up and then you fall over. And you crawl again and you stand up and you're wobbling and then maybe you fall over. And then maybe you start taking a few more steps and then you kind of fall over. And then maybe you start running and then you fall over. I mean, I'm pretty sure I fell over like I don't know, the past several months, just tripping over random things. And that's such a unique experience as an adult. It was just like in slow-mo. I just slow motion see myself falling and hitting the ground. I was like, wow, that's a thing, huh? But I got back up and I was just like, okay, I haven't fallen like that in a while, like tripped over something and fell. But the thing is, it's like, you just got to get back up and keep fucking going. Like, who cares? If somebody is sitting there and judging you for trying something different and for trying to better yourself, you have to ignore it. And it's easy for us to be like, yeah, well, you know what? Fuck you and blah, 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 blah. And to cast judgment back at them and to throw hate and anger back at them and to become defensive. But the challenge is for you to learn to acknowledge where they are as individuals. Because ultimately they have their reasons for trying to put you down. And it's because maybe they don't see the vision the way that you do. Maybe they're jealous that you even have the courage to try something different. Maybe they're scared of change, within themselves and within the people that are connected to them. There could be many reasons why, but sometimes you just have to be like, you know what? I see where you are, and I'm going to continue to do my own thing. And then just keep pushing forward. Because the people who are genuinely going to support you will show up at some point. And it's going to be truly amazing when you receive that. And you're like, oh, wow. Like there's really people here that believe in me. Aside from myself, there's people who believe in me and who believe in my vision and who want to support me and see me succeed. Trust me, there are people out there like that. Absolutely. I have met so many. The people on my podcast, these are just some of the individuals in all of my life that I have met. I have always had amazing people come into my life. And, everybody's been through their own growth journey, and it's really interesting to experience and to go back and reflect and to see where others are and where you are, and to think about what it is that you do want in this life. Because there's going to be a point in your life, perhaps, that you realize, man, I want something different than what I see around me. I want something different than what my family wanted for me or what my friends have and what they're doing. I have a lot of friends who are already married and they have kids. I have a cat. That is my child. Xena, my baby girl. That is my baby. And, we're on different life paths, but it doesn't make any of us better than the other. We're just on our own journeys, and we're just living our lives uniquely for ourselves. And we have to do the things that bring us fulfillment and that continue to bring us joy and happiness and connection. So I'm not really sure how much more I should rant on. I feel like I'm like getting into this really big philosophical speech about my podcast, when really the point of this podcast is to ignite curiosity within whoever listens, who can look at a title and be like, what the heck does that mean? Or what is this? Or, man, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of curious about that. Let me listen and let me hear this person's story and what it is that they're going to talk about. But the point is, I want people to be curious. I want you to be curious and to continue to expand on your curiosity, because the more that you expand out on your curiosity, the more you're going to look within yourself and realize, oh, wait, I'm curious about this thing. And then as soon as you start exploring that, you're going to end up on this unique path toward a potential passion of yours. And once you find that, that's like so fulfilling and so rewarding. And I hope that some of these stories that people are sharing exemplify just that. They had this little thing that they were like, man, I really like this. Maybe I should try this, or maybe I should I don't know, read into this more, or maybe I should try this course, or maybe I should, explore this little business or something. They were curious and they went for it. And some of them have found the thing that they absolutely love to do. And it only brings them more balance and peace and love. And it brings them fulfillment outside of, relationships or family. Don't get me wrong. Obviously you're going to find love and fulfillment within that. But what is really important is that you find the things that are missing within yourself and you look for things to help fulfill that. Genuine, authentic things. Not the toxic things. We've all dealt with the toxic things. I've dealt with toxic shit. And I've worked to try to clean a lot of that out of my system. And so pursuing my curiosity is expanding out even more. And sometimes you go and you try something and you realize, man, it really wasn't this activity that I was interested in, but it was the meaning behind that activity. I saw that activity and it reminded me of freedom. And I tried the activity and I didn't personally like it, but now I realize that what attracted me to it was freedom. So what about freedom is it that I'm attracted to? Or what about it am I missing within my own life? And how can I incorporate that more? How can you incorporate these little things more into your life? Maybe that just means you have to go and continue to explore until you find that answer. So again, regardless of whether you try something new and it ends up working for you or not, the point is you explored that curiosity, you tried it, you hopefully find the meaning within that, and then you continue to keep exploring. Life is literally at least for me, the way that I've been seeing my life as I go back and I try to interpret man, I've done this and this, and I've done this and this and this. And I realize it's I'm trying to put a big puzzle, together. And there are some things that I'm able to group according to patterns and this and that. Then there's others that are just more linear, I don't know, progressions and how they develop over time. So I'm maybe building a border. But essentially, I'm building a picture of my life. And it's just every puzzle for every individual, just like every life, is going to be unique. And every puzzle for every individual is going to have either maybe a few pieces or a shit ton of pieces. Some puzzles, some people's lives are going to be very simple and serene, and some others are going to be more complex and diverse. But that's the beauty of it. That's the diversity that we have in this world and in this life. And we all need to accept that for ourselves and for others and realize, hey man, that person, they're living their own their own thing. They have their own puzzle. That's their life. That's their puzzle to put together. I have mine and I'm slowly figuring it out. I think I have an idea, but it could change. You'd be surprised. If you've ever done a puzzle without actually seeing the picture of what the heck you're trying to put together and form, I do that a lot. I can't say a lot because I do look at the things, but I do like to challenge myself to not continuously look at the picture. I just like to look for the patterns and pieces, but I should get back to doing a puzzle. I have one on mushrooms actually. It's like a mycology thing. Anyway, enough about dorking out on mushroom puzzles. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from, in how simple or complex life can be, whether it's your own life or somebody else's. It's like you just have to live yours to find out what yours is like, because your pieces might differ from somebody else's. And if you are trying to put together a puzzle and you're trying to copy somebody else's, but your pieces are not fitting together, you need to start looking at what you have. You need to start looking at your own pieces. You need to stop looking at what other people are doing and focus on you. Because again, we're all very unique. Sure, you might try to copy your family or friends and this and that, but ultimately, like, you are your own individual and you need to work on your own puzzle and put those pieces together. And remember, sometimes you have to find certain patterns first before building a border, or sometimes you are able to build a border first, but realize, like, life is limitless. If you open your eyes and you can be open to the fact that there are multiple ways to achieve something. Don't always be so narrow focused. I have a tendency to do that at times, like where I would see things as black and white instead of seeing the gray. And that's still something that I'm working through in my own life. It's just diving into the gray and swimming within this and that. And I think this podcast is an example of how gray my life really is. It's not black or white because of all the random shit that I'm doing and exploring. It's not. It's actually very colorful, very colorful. And I love that. It's very colorful and eccentric. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful puzzle that I'm putting together. And so I just hope to inspire other people to invest in their puzzle, invest in their lives, invest in their curiosity, and live out your passion. So I'm going to wrap it up there and wish you the absolute best. I hope you have a wonderful day, morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever. Just, have a great time. Yeah, I'm never really good at wrapping these things up. So I guess that's something I have to work on. But thank you again so much for taking the time to listen to me and really for sharing your time with me. Because again, your time is one of the most valuable things you have in this life. And the fact that you allowed me to enter into that is really amazing. So I genuinely thank you for listening. So have a good one. And until the next time.